Hey guys, tonight we're going to shrink ourselves down to the daily scale of medieval life and quietly walk through the kitchens, workshops, and dusty village paths to answer one strange but strangely telling question. What was the average size of a medieval woman? Picture this: stone floors cold beneath bare feet, the sweet smoke of peat fires curling through the rafters and the rhythmic creak of wooden looms echoing through a dim cottage. You glance across the small room and spot her slim, strong, hunched slightly from years of hard work and shorter than most modern women. Her hands are calloused, her frame compact, built for endurance rather than elegance. There's no corset, no powdered face, no courtly polish, just raw, lived-in humanity wrapped in rough-spun wool. And here's your nightly reality check. If you were dropped into her shoes right now, you probably wouldn't last the day. Not because she's bigger than you, quite the opposite, but because her life is tougher than anything you've known. So before you get comfortable, take a moment to like the video and subscribe, but only if you genuinely enjoy what I do here. And while you're at it, drop your location and local time in the comments. It's always amazing to see how far this little sleepy community reaches. Now dim the lights, maybe turn on a fan for that soft background hum, and let's ease into tonight's journey together. You wake just before dawn, your limbs already sore from yesterday's labor. There's a damp chill in the air, and your blanket, if you're lucky enough to have one, is scratchy and too thin. You sit up from your straw-stuffed mattress and feel the stiffness in your back. The cottage ceiling above you is low enough that you don't have to rise very far. That's the first clue about your size. You aren't tall. In fact, you stand about 5 feet to 5 feet 2 inches, barely grazing 155 centimeters. That's not stunted growth. It's just normal for your time. Nutrition is scarce, meals are simple, and your body has grown within the limits of what your lifestyle and society allowed. For comparison, modern women in the Western world average around 5'4" to 5'6". But you don't know anything about averages. You only know that your mother was about your height, and her mother before her. There are no mirrors in your home. You see yourself mostly in puddles or the occasional piece of polished metal. But even without a clear reflection, you know your body well. You're lean, not thin like the modern fashionable sense. There's no gym, no calorie counting, but lean in the sense of necessity. Every day you lift, walk, carry, kneel, scrub, dig. You rarely sit still. Your arms are wiry, your calves thick from hills and fields, your fingers skilled and strong from hours of weaving or baking. Your waist isn't measured in inches, but in how tightly you can fasten your belt, woven wool, knotted simply and worn, not for fashion, but for function. That belt cinches above your hips, not below, because medieval clothing isn't tailored to show off curves. Modesty and practicality reign. You wear layers, often 2 or 3 woolen garments, none of which hint at your figure beneath. As you move outside to tend the morning chores, the sun not yet breaking the horizon, you see your neighbors already at work. They look like you, compact, rugged, plainly dressed. Your older sister, who married last year, has already borne her first child, and her hips have widened a bit from it. You're 15, maybe 16. Not quite a woman by today's standards, but already seen as grown in this world. There's a reason you don't grow taller. The food you eat is bread-heavy, often lacking in protein and essential vitamins. Meat is rare unless your family keeps chickens or traps rabbits. Milk and cheese help, but only seasonally. There's no guarantee of 3 meals a day. You eat when there's food and go without when there's not. During winters or after poor harvests, you lose weight. It's not a choice, it's the rhythm of your existence. If you're part of the nobility, a rare chance you might be a few inches taller, fed with slightly better variety and more rest. But even noble women aren't giants. They might grow to 5'3" or even 5'4" if luck favors them, but they're still bound by the same biological limits of the era. And despite their wealth, they too are expected to bear children, early manage estates, and sometimes even learn the sword. Meanwhile, your weight sits somewhere between 100 to 115 pounds, often fluctuating with the seasons. There's no concept of a goal weight-only survival. You might not menstruate regularly, especially if your body is too taxed or undernourished. You may not even know what's happening inside you, only that some months pain comes and some months it doesn't. Your feet are small, shaped by walking barefoot or in simple leather shoes. Your spine curves a little from carrying water firewood children. Your hands are tools hardened by use. If a scholar measured your bones centuries later, they might guess your age wrong, because your body wears the signs of labor long before your years. You don't complain. Not because you aren't tired, but because this is how life has always been. You don't know it's possible to grow taller, to be stronger with rest, to look different with different food. You simply live inside your body, moving forward, breath by breath, task by task. As the day breaks and the sun pours pale light across the thatched roofs, you bend down to fill a wooden bucket at the well. You feel the strain in your back, the ache in your knees. You're not even 20, and yet your body is old in the ways that count here. But there is pride in this frame of yours. Pride in how it keeps moving, keeps working, keeps carrying the world on its narrow shoulders. You don't know your exact size, but you know your worth. And so with your bucket swinging from one strong arm, you rise and walk back toward the cottage, another long day just beginning. The bucket sloshes against your leg as you step carefully over the uneven stones that line the path home. You tilt your weight slightly to keep your balance, your hips absorbing the motion, your calves flexing with each step. This is just one of dozens of daily trips you'll make to and from the well. Hydration isn't as simple as turning on a tap. Everything comes with effort. As you approach your home, you duck instinctively beneath the low doorway. Your head fits comfortably under the frame, which tells you once again you are small. The architecture reflects your stature. Even buildings are scaled to bodies like yours. Ceilings hover low, beds are short benches, narrow. A medieval home doesn't need much headroom because no one living in it expects to tower over 6 feet. Especially not the women. Inside the cottage is already warm from the fire your younger brother stoked. You glance over at the pot simmering on the hearth. A thin porridge bubbles quietly, barley oats, maybe a few herbs if you were lucky at foraging yesterday. You scoop some into a bowl. It's hot and filling, but light, not the kind of meal that builds much muscle or height. This is what your body has learned to grow on. You eat slowly, chewing each bite as if drawing every bit of strength from it. Around you, the space is modest. Wooden beams, blackened with soot walls, patched with wattle and daub. There are no shelves lined with goods, no mirror to check your appearance. There are tools and woven baskets drying herbs and maybe a bit of linen hanging from a hook. What you wear today, an undyed woolen kirtle, is much like what you wore yesterday. You don't need variety, just warmth and coverage. After eating, your next task is spinning. You take up the spindle wrap, the raw wool between your fingers, and begin the long process of turning fleece into thread. It's a rhythm your fingers know by heart. Spinning is women's work, and you've been doing it since you were old enough to hold the tool steady. Your hands move almost independently, the soft hum of the spindle filling the quiet. This work, though seated, doesn't rest you. Your back remains slightly hunched. Your shoulders ache from yesterday's loads. Every task, no matter how gentle it seems, takes a toll. Over time, it shapes your posture, your gait, your very bones. Future archaeologists will find your remains and recognize that curve of the spine, that compressed vertebra, and know she labored. You pause to adjust your belt. It sits just above your hips, cinched tightly, partly to keep your garments in place and partly to support your back. There's no corsetry here, not for someone of your class. Only the wealthiest women wear stiff bodices or metal stays. You've seen one once, maybe on the visiting wife of a landholder. She looked taller, more poised, but you could tell she didn't move easily. Your feet ache even though you've only been standing for part of the morning. The shoes you wear, if you have them, are made from rough leather with thin soles. They don't cushion, they don't insulate. Your toes feel every stone, every lump of soil. Your arches have long since flattened, your heels hardened into callus. If you ever have children, your body will carry the signs of strain even further. A broader pelvis, wider stance, sometimes even broken teeth from calcium depletion. Medieval pregnancy is a gamble, and it comes early. Around midday, you step outside again, this time to help gather herbs. In the village, you aren't alone. Dozens of women just like you move through the lanes. You see the variations, one girl slightly taller, another broader through the shoulders. But overall, the differences are slight. You might notice that girls from wealthier homes are a little more filled out, likely from steadier access to cheese, butter, and meat. A noble daughter might even reach 5'4" tall by your standards. But for every extra inch, there's usually also more expectation to marry well, to bear heirs, to maintain appearances. No one escapes the weight of this world, no matter their size. You crouch beside a hedgerow, careful not to dirty your skirt, and begin collecting nettles and wood sorrel. These will go in tonight's stew, more filler than flavor, but necessary. As you move, you notice how close to the earth your body feels. Not in a romantic way, but literally. You live near the ground. You squat to cook, to wash, to work. You bend, kneel, crawl, carry. Your world isn't designed for comfort. It's designed for labor. In the afternoon, a neighboring woman passes with her child strapped to her back. You nod a greeting, noting the child's size. Already sturdy, wide-eyed, and curious. That child will likely grow to your size, maybe taller if times are kind. But that's rare. The Black Death just a century ago briefly changed the averages. With fewer people and more food to go around, those who survived sometimes grew taller, stronger. But now the pendulum has swung again. Famine, war, poor sanitation, they've shrunk the possibilities back down. As the sun begins its descent, your thoughts drift to courtly tales. You've heard songs about noble women with flowing gowns, long hair, and delicate forms. But even those stories don't describe giants. The fair maidens of legend are small, dainty, easily swept off their feet. Beauty in the medieval imagination isn't about stature. It's about fragility, paleness, roundness of face. You may not see yourself in those tales, but you understand them. Even in fantasy, the ideal woman is never tall or imposing. You return home just as the evening chill sets in. The cottage is dim now, lit only by the flickering hearth. You massage your aching wrists and sit for the first time in what feels like hours. Your body, though small, feels monumental. Every muscle has worked. Every joint has carried the day's load. Tomorrow you'll do it again, and the day after that. You won't grow taller. Your body is finished growing. You've likely already reached your final height, and it never even occurred to you to wish for more. In this time, size isn't a choice. It's the outcome of hardship, of hunger, of heritage. And yet somehow within this quiet, strong frame, you've built a life that keeps moving forward. The fire crackles beside you. You pull your woolen shawl tighter, tuck your feet beneath you, and prepare to sleep, just 5 feet of quiet resilience against a vast, uncaring world. The morning light filters in through the small window, just a square opening, covered with oiled linen, letting in a faint glow, but keeping out the chill. You stretch slightly under your woolen blanket, but even that simple act is met with stiffness in your shoulders and knees. The mattress beneath you, made of straw and old rags, has flattened in places, and your spine feels every dip and rise. There's no such thing as a good night's sleep, not the kind you'd recognize today. Just rest enough to survive. Your body is resilient, but that doesn't mean it's thriving. You rise again, tugging your gown over your shoulders, lacing it snug around your middle. The fabric fits because you made it that way. No size tags, no shopping. You measure with your eyes and your memory just enough room to move, but not so much that warmth escapes. There's a rhythm to this life that shapes your form as much as diet does. Wake work, eat work, sleep. Repeat. It's a rhythm that trains your muscles and bones from childhood. Girls don't stay small and soft for long. By the age of 12 or 13, you're lifting water-tending goats, carrying baskets of firewood, even helping with harvests if the season demands it. Your arms tighten, your back toughens, and your height stabilizes early. There's no time or nourishment for long teenage growth spurts. Even your face bears the imprint of the time. It's not a face shaped by makeup or mirrors, but by wind, sun, and smoke. Your cheeks are weathered, your brow sometimes furrowed from concentration. Your hair, always pulled back or tucked beneath a kerchief, grows thick but dry. You rarely see it fully down. There's no shampoo, just ash soap, sometimes boiled with herbs. It smells of the hearth, the fields, the place you live. As you go about your morning tasks, kneading bread, sweeping the dirt floor, tending to the fire, you hear the clatter of hooves outside. A traveling merchant has come through the village. It's rare, but when it happens, everyone gathers. You step outside, wiping your hands on your apron, and join the small crowd. Among them are women from nearby cottages, each one built like you, short, sinewy, with strong legs and narrow waists. You glance sideways at a woman near you, maybe in her 40s. Her back is slightly bent from years of labor, and her forearms ripple with the kind of muscle that comes from grinding grain and hauling water daily. No gym could build that. Just time and a life that demands physicality. Her height, perhaps 5 feet, maybe less, now that age has started to steal her stature. The merchant carries fabrics, small trinkets, salt, and more rarely mirrors. You hesitate before stepping up to look at one, catching your reflection for the first time in weeks, maybe months. The face that stares back is narrower than you imagined. The nose slightly crooked from a childhood tumble. A scar near your chin from an old burn. Your eyes are steady, dark, unreadable. You turn away quickly. It's not shame exactly. It's just irrelevance. You don't need to know how you look to know who you are. That's the medieval reality. There is no obsession with beauty standards in your daily life, no calorie charts, no height and weight tables. But there are expectations. A small woman is often seen as more feminine, more manageable, better suited to childbirth and domestic work. Larger women might be envied in times of famine, seen as healthier, better fed. But rarely do they escape judgment. There's always some whisper about what a woman should be. Size is a social marker. If you're unusually tall, say above 5'4", you stand out. That might invite gossip, even suspicion. Unusual height in a woman could be seen as a sign of masculine traits of witchcraft, even if the community is particularly superstitious. Better safer to be average. To blend in. To be the kind of woman everyone expects to see in the village square, small, sturdy, predictable. Later back inside, you help prepare dinner with your mother and sisters. As you crush herbs and stir the stew, you listen to them talk about another girl who's just been betrothed. She's 15, slender, with good hips, someone says. It It's a strange thing to hear described like a compliment. But in this world, childbearing is a defining measure of your worth. And your body is expected to fulfill that role whether you're ready or not. Even the midwives measure you differently. They don't talk about BMI or pelvic width in inches. They feel your bones with calloused fingers. They observe how you move, how you carry baskets, how you breathe under strain. These quiet, skilled women carry generations of experience. They've seen which bodies break and which bodies bend. You hope to be one that bends. That evening you lie near the fire legs, curled up, hands folded beneath your head. You look around at your family, the room lit dimly by firelight and fading sky. Every woman here is small by modern standards, and yet their presence is immense. They fill the room with motion, conversation, laughter, fatigue. These women aren't models. They're forces of nature. Their size 5 feet 5'1", 5'2" isn't a limitation. It's a record, a biological archive of endurance. Tomorrow the work will continue. Your body will bend, carry, cook, spin, and scrub, and it will do so without pause. It won't ask whether you feel strong or feminine or attractive. It will simply keep going. And in that going and that perseverance, it will define what average truly means. You wake to the soft bleating of goats just outside the cottage wall. The morning is damp, and your breath clouds the air as you sit up. The cold creeps in through the gaps in the doorframe and settles into your joints before your feet even touch the ground. But you don't complain. You pull your shawl around your shoulders and rise into the day because that's what your body was built to do. Today is washing day, and washing in your world is no delicate affair. You haul pails of water from the stream, the path slippery with dew and compacted dirt. Each pail weighs almost as much as a child. You balance them across your shoulders with a wooden yoke, the weight pressing into your collarbones. Your spine doesn't protest, it has grown used to this. The vertebrae have compressed slightly with age and use, but the rhythm of this labor is familiar. Once back at the wash basin, a wooden trough near the fire, you begin scrubbing linens and tunics with coarse soap made from animal fat and wood ash. You kneel on the hard-packed earth legs folded beneath you, arms plunged into icy water. Your fingers go numb quickly, but you keep working. That's what every woman does. This labor carves into your frame. It doesn't bulk you up like a modern gym might, but it makes you strong in invisible, undeniable ways. Your shoulders are slightly rounded from this repeated motion. Your wrists bear a thickness from constant strain. Your fingernails are chipped, stained, and clean in the sense that no dirt remains, but no gloss either. Every mark on your hands is a story of something done, of survival, of care. Your size again defines the task. You're small enough to kneel comfortably by the basin, to crouch near the fire, to fit in the tight kitchen corners where food is prepared. Everything around you, from the height of the table to the doorway you pass through, is built in proportion to your form. If a modern woman stepped into your world, even at average height, she might find herself ducking constantly, bumping her head, stooping awkwardly to reach what you can do with ease. And still, for all your fitness and ability, your size is not a subject of celebration. It simply is. No one talks about height unless it's too much or too little. Too much, and the girl is whispered about. Too little, and the elders worry whether she'll survive childbirth. You're in the middle. Not tall, not short. You're right. Not because anyone told you, but because you fit the mold that generations have carved before you. Later in the day, you walk to the baker's with your younger cousin. She skips beside you, not yet shaped by the years of labor ahead. She asks you how tall she'll grow. You smile, thinking of your mother, your grandmother, and say, like us. She nods and accepts this content to inherit your frame as well as your apron someday. At the baker's, you wait in line with other women. There's a sense of sameness in the crowd. Hair braided or covered hands, roughened dresses patched at the elbows. You notice a new face, a traveler perhaps taller than most of you, by a head with a strange accent and straighter teeth. She looks foreign, and people glance at her sideways. It's not envy, it's suspicion. Difference can be dangerous. In a place where survival depends on tight bonds and familiar patterns, a tall woman stands out like a tower in a flat field. You wonder what her life is like. Does she bend more often, get stared at more? Does her size protect her or expose her? By the time you return home, dusk is softening the edges of the sky. You sit with your siblings and share what bread and stew you have. Your little brother reaches for more and jokes that you eat like a bird. You chuckle, but you know he's right. You've never had a large appetite. Whether by nature or necessity, you've learned to eat just enough. Hunger is a familiar feeling, sometimes quiet, sometimes gnawing, but always part of your life. And yet, despite that, your body endures. It doesn't need abundance to function. It simply adapts. That's why you stopped growing around 14 or 15. Your body understood the limits of what it could become in this world, and reached for exactly that, no more, no less. You were never expected to be taller. You were expected to be capable. And you are. In the stillness before bed, you touch your lower back, feeling the ache beneath the skin. It reminds you that your bones are aging faster than your years. You've walked countless miles without ever leaving your village. You've lifted more weight than your frame seems built for. But you've done it without thinking twice. There is something deeply human in this physical existence. You know your size not because someone measured it, but because you live inside it. You duck under beams. You feel the space between your elbows and the cottage wall. You lie beside your sister at night, two narrow shapes wrapped in the same woolen blanket. And you know, by the way, your knees align, that you are built from the same pattern. And when you look at your mother, who is only inches taller, you see what your future will be smaller, perhaps as gravity and time do their work, but just as steady. Because here, size isn't what defines beauty or strength. Endurance does. The next morning comes earlier than expected, as it always does. The rooster calls out before the sky has even shifted color, and the air is thick with dew. You rise without complaint, the movements of your morning routine as ingrained as the aches in your spine. Your knees pop softly as you stand, and your first few steps are stiff like the floor itself must thaw before it lets you walk freely. You throw a shawl over your shoulders and make your way to the small garden patch behind the cottage. It's not grand, just a rectangle of churned earth with rows of leeks, onions, and beans, but it demands regular tending. You bend low to pull weeds, careful not to disturb the roots. Your body folds easily. It's used to kneeling, stooping, crouching. Your thighs are strong from this kind of work, not bulky but taut. You've never had the luxury of sitting straight-backed for long. That kind of posture belongs to the carved ladies in stained glass, not to women like you. As you work, you think about how little the world has changed around you. This patch of land looks much like it did for your grandmother, and likely her grandmother before her. If someone measured your height next to theirs, they'd find near identical results. Maybe an inch or two difference, but nothing dramatic. Medieval women didn't vary much in size across generations, not unless a family saw an unusual streak of fortune, perhaps a marriage into a wealthier household, or a long stretch without famine. But most of the time, the average stayed the average 5 feet to 5'2", slender, sturdy, and sun-worn. Once the garden is weeded and watered, you move on to the goats. Their pens are just beyond the hedgerow, and the animals bleat lazily as you approach. You carry a wooden pail and a stool settling into the familiar rhythm of milking. The act requires quiet strength, firm hands, a calm presence, and the ability to squat or sit for long periods. You've had years of practice. Your legs don't tremble. Your arms don't cramp. Your frame, though small, is a tool honed for repetition. A neighbor stops by a widow in her 60s, her face weathered like tree bark, her back curved like a bow. You greet her respectfully, offering her a ladle of milk. She smiles, revealing a mouth with more gaps than teeth. She's shorter than you, her years having taken what little height she once had. But she's still strong. You watch her carry a basket nearly as wide as her torso, and realize something important. Strength in this world is measured not by size, but by what you carry and how long you carry it. As midday nears, you're invited to the nearby chapel. It's not a feast day, but a small procession is being held in honor of a local saint. You wash your hands, pull a cleaner apron over your dress, and walk with the other village women. You notice their shapes again, not because you're comparing, but because their forms are familiar, repeating the same pattern again and again. Compact, reserved heads, covered shoulders, squared by years of routine. The chapel is small but beautiful in its own way. Stone walls, timber roof, and beams darkened by age. You sit on a wooden bench with no backrest, your spine held upright by habit alone. There's no comfort here, only reverence. The priest speaks in Latin, and though you don't understand the words fully, the rhythm is soothing. When it's over, you step outside into the cool shade beneath the chapel's arch. The tallest woman in the congregation, a weaver from the next village, stands beside you. She's about 5'5", nearly a head taller than you. She carries it well, but she's often the subject of whispers. Some think she's unnatural, some say she has the blood of Norse raiders. Others are simply intrigued by her difference. She tells you softly that her height makes it hard to find shoes that fit. You think for a moment how strange that sounds. You've never struggled with such a thing. Your feet are small, wide, and flat from walking barefoot much of your childhood, but proportionate to your body. Most shoes passed down to you or traded in the market fit just fine. But the tall weaver shrugs off her difficulties. She's learned to sew her own. Like all of you, she adapts. Later that evening, as the golden light of dusk settles over the village, you help your father mend the fence near the path. You lift the wooden slats into place, holding them steady as he hammers. He's taller than you by a foot or more, as many men are. But even he comments now and then that you've got stronger hands than some boys he's known. That's not flattery. It's observation. You've earned that comment through action, not appearance. The average medieval woman didn't need to look strong. She just needed to be strong. There's no glory in your work, no praise for your posture or form. But the shape of your body, the width of your shoulders, the sturdiness of your thighs, the curve of your spine tells the real story. It tells of every mile walked, every burden carried, every day endured. And so as night falls and you return home once again, your shadow cast long behind you. In the lantern light, you settle into your space. Not because you seek to measure it, but because it has always fit you perfectly. You are the size of survival. The stars are still out when you stir the next morning. You've learned to wake before the world. Before the fire crackles back to life, before the goats bleat, before your siblings rise. In these earliest moments, the silence has weight, and you feel your breath settle into your bones, like it's anchoring you for the work ahead. You sit on the edge of your straw mattress, rubbing warmth into your arms. They're thinner than a man's, but the strength inside them is undeniable. These are arms that have lifted, hauled, kneaded, and endured. You run your hands down your shins and flex your toes. Your feet are wide toes, splayed slightly from years of bare ground and hand-stitched shoes. You don't think about their appearance much. You think about how far they can carry you before dusk. Today, you're helping with the grain. The last harvest is long stored, but it needs constant maintenance. Mold rats damp everything's a threat. You make your way to the granary with 2 other women both around your age. You all walk with purpose, your skirts swinging just above your ankles, your hands already dusted with flour from grinding yesterday. As you walk side by side, you notice how similar you are, not just in height, but in gait. You take short steps without realizing it. Not dainty, but efficient. Your strides are practical, designed to balance loads and conserve energy. No one in your circle wastes movement. You're all around 5 feet tall, maybe an inch more or less. You don't know your exact height because it's never been measured. But you've lived enough days ducking beneath beams and folding into doorways to know exactly how much space you occupy. At the granary, the air is dry and full of husk dust. You begin sorting the sacks with practiced hands. Each one weighs more than you think you can carry, but your back doesn't hesitate. You crouch, grip the sack with both arms, and lift with a sharp exhale. The sack presses into your ribs as you haul it onto a wooden cart. No one applauds. It's just part of the day. Your size works in your favor here. A taller woman might find it harder to maneuver in the tight storage lofts, or hoist sacks without tipping the balance. You compact and strong can crawl into the corners, pull sacks from low shelves, and arrange them like puzzle pieces. Your strength isn't raw, it's refined, specific, rehearsed over years of need. When the work is done, you sit in the shade and rub your thighs. The soreness is constant, but it doesn't bother you. It just reminds you that you've done something with your day. Around you, other women chat softly. One of them is pregnant, her belly just beginning to round. She moves more slowly, but still helps where she can. She's built like you, small, wiry, yet capable of carrying new life with unspoken dignity. Pregnancy changes bodies here, not just in ways modern people expect, but visibly and permanently. A woman's pelvis shifts, her walk alters, her ribs might flare slightly from the internal pressure. These transformations aren't medicalized, they're lived. And once they happen, the community knows. You read it in the way a woman stands, the way she holds a child on one hip, the way her posture shifts with quiet pride. In the afternoon, you're called to help with dyeing. Cloth from the last shearing has been spun into thread, and now it needs color before weaving. The dye vats are large clay pots heated over a fire filled with water, and plant extracts woad for blue matter, for red weld, for yellow. You stir them with long wooden paddles, the heat making your face flush. As you lean over the vats, steam rising around you, your arms tremble slightly. It's hard work keeping the fabric moving so the dye penetrates evenly. But this too is part of the shaping. Every motion today is reshaping you, adding definition to your shoulders, tightening the curve of your lower back, building a body adapted not by design, but by repetition. The dye stains your hands, seeping into the lines of your palms and under your nails. It'll stay for days. That too is normal. Your body wears its work like a second skin. Once the cloth is hung to dry, you take a moment to stretch. You place your hands on your hips and lean back slowly. Your spine pops. You're reminded that your vertebrae are compressed, not from injury, but from years of carrying, crouching, bending. Most women your age, mid-teens to early 20s, already feel the pressure. By 30, you'll be shorter than you are now. Not dramatically, but subtly. Time bends the body the way rivers wear away stone. That evening, as you light the rushlight and prepare the last meal of the day, you catch your reflection again, this time in the ripple of water in the wash basin. The light flickers. You look tired, but you also look grounded steady. Your neck holds your head high, not because of pride, but because it must. Because everything you do depends on holding things together. You sit near the fire with your younger siblings nestled around you. Your littlest brother leans against your side. He's growing quickly, already past your shoulder when standing. You joke that he'll be the tallest in the family soon. Your mother laughs softly from across the room. Only if he keeps eating, she says. Food, after all, is the one variable you can never control completely. It determines how much you grow, how soon you stop. It's the hidden architect of your size. If this year is kind, if the crops are strong and the game plentiful, the younger ones may grow taller than you. If not, they'll simply become more like you, small, capable, and tough. In this world, bodies are shaped by hunger and hope in equal measure. And yours, though modest in stature, is a quiet monument to both. The sun rises through a veil of mist the next morning, and with it comes the faint sound of bells from the church tower in the distance. You already have your sleeves rolled and your hair tied back before the first peal fades. Today is market day, and while you won't be selling anything yourself, you're helping your aunt carry goods into the village square. Her cottage is 3 fields over, and you take the familiar path through dew-soaked grass, your shoes damp by the first turn. She greets you with a grin, already standing beside 2 large baskets filled with root vegetables and soft cheese wrapped in linen. She's not a large woman, barely taller than you, but her arms are like rope and her back straight as an oaken beam. Together you lift the baskets onto a small handcart and begin the slow walk to the square. Your pace is steady, your steps practiced. As the cart creaks behind you, you think about how many women have walked this path. Generations, likely, and not one of them needed long legs or wide shoulders to do it. You don't need to be tall to be dependable. You need balance, rhythm, and patience. The road, uneven and worn, favors smaller strides anyway. When you reach the square, it's already bustling. Stalls are being set up with bolts of cloth, dried fish pottery, bundles of herbs. You and your aunt find a spot in the shadow of a stone wall and begin laying out the goods. You crouch, sort, arrange, and barter. Your voice is soft but firm. You know your worth. Around you, the other women selling and trading are variations on a theme. Different faces, different stories, but similar bodies. Strong shoulders, lean hips, hands that look older than their owners. You watch one girl heft a sack of barley with ease. She's no more than 5 feet tall, maybe less. Her braid swings as she walks, and her cheeks are pink from effort. She's not remarkable in a crowd, but if you watched her work for a day, you'd remember her. Later in the morning, a traveling scribe arrives, a man educated enough to carry measuring tools, parchment, and a thin book of notes. He's not just here to buy, he's here to observe. It happens now and then someone from a distant estate comes to record village data, births, deaths, tax records, and sometimes he makes idle notes on the people themselves. You overhear him murmur something to a local reeve about the stature of the peasantry. His tone is analytical, detached. You're a data point to him, a measurement to be written down. He's not wrong to notice. The truth is, if someone were to take a measuring rod and line up every woman in this square, they'd find a consistent range. Most of you stand between 4'11" and 5'2", weighing somewhere between 100 and 115 pounds. Slender by necessity, shaped not by vanity, but by scarcity. A few exceptions catch the eye: a tall girl from the hills, broader in the chest, likely descended from a line that had more meat through the lean years. A merchant's daughter with fuller cheeks and a fine wool dress, taller than most. but they're outliers, and everyone knows it. The scribe moves on and you return to arranging turnips. You don't mind being unnoticed. In fact, in a world where attention can bring danger, accusations, envy, judgment, it's often safer to be forgettably average. At midday, you take a break and sit beneath the shade of a canvas awning. Your aunt passes you a bit of bread and a wedge of cheese. You chew slowly, savoring it. It's richer than usual. She must have kept back a little of the better milk for this batch. You ask about her joints, her fingers gnarled from age and arthritis barely able to close now. She laughs and waves it off. Still strong enough to whack you with a stick, she jokes. You smile, but you also see your future in her. She was once your height, your shape, your speed. And now age has stooped her shoulders, narrowed her gait, compressed her frame. She's maybe 4'9" now, and getting smaller by the season. You realize that your height, already modest, will shrink with time, too. Gravity hardship, where it all pushes down. That afternoon, back at the cottage, you help your mother sort dried beans. The work is slow, meditative. Your fingers move instinctively, picking out stones and broken pods. You sit cross-legged on the floor, your body folding easily into itself. No need for padded chairs or cushioned benches. You've lived your whole life near the ground. You glance over at your younger sister. She's only 10, but already showing signs of her adult frame. She's narrow-shouldered, quick-footed, and barely comes up to your collarbone. You wonder if she'll grow taller than you. Maybe. If the coming winters are kind. If she gets more milk than you did. But more likely, she'll stop where you did. Around 5 feet. Strong. Quietly unbreakable. That evening, you help your brother hang bundles of herbs from the rafters to dry. You stand on tiptoe to reach the beam. Your fingers just graze it. You smile knowing you've done it every season, and you always manage even without a stool. Your size fits this house, this life. You don't need more. The fire is crackling when you sit down at last. Your hands are stained, your legs sore, your belly only half full, but you feel complete in a way you can't quite name. You don't have a mirror to check your reflection. You don't have numbers to confirm your size, but you know your body. It fits the doorways, the work, the seasons, and tomorrow it will do so again. Night falls with a hush, as if the world itself is sighing into stillness. The air outside is crisp, and the cottage walls seem to breathe with the shifting breeze. You lie on your straw mattress, curled arms folded beneath your head, listening to the soft crackle of the hearth. The day's aches melt into the quiet as sleep pulls gently at your eyelids. But morning always comes quickly, too quickly. Another day begins, and with it the unending routine. This time you're accompanying your older cousin to the nearby woods to gather kindling and mushrooms. The walk is longer than usual and the terrain uneven, but you don't worry. Your feet, hardened by years of uneven roads, know where to land. Your legs carry you effortlessly short, as they may be with the kind of practiced grace that only repetition can teach. You duck beneath branches, step over tangled roots, and crouch low to check beneath fallen logs. It's in this forest work that your size becomes a tool. Larger people might snag their cloaks or struggle to squeeze into the mossy alcoves where the best mushrooms grow. But you can fold into the earth, move like water through tight places, and lift bundles of sticks without complaint. Your cousin, taller and broader, carries heavier loads, but she moves slower. You, nimble and balanced, cover more ground. It's a quiet teamwork, unspoken but effective. By midday, your sack is filled with mushrooms and twigs. The weight presses into your back as you rise, but you shift it easily, slinging it over one shoulder. You've carried heavier. On the walk back, she teases you. You're like a squirrel, she says. Small but impossible to catch. You laugh, wiping sweat from your brow with your sleeve. You've never thought of yourself that way before, but it fits. There's something wild and enduring in you, something quick, clever, and tireless. Back at home, you sort the hall, drying the mushrooms, bundling the kindling, sweeping away the dirt you tracked inside. As you kneel, you feel a twinge in your hip. Not sharp, but familiar. You've learned not to fear these signals. Your body talks to you. It tells you when to rest, when to push, when to shift your weight and protect your joints. It's small, yes, but wise. Later in the day, the village physician stops by. He's not a doctor in the modern sense, but he knows his herbs and bones well enough. He checks on your grandmother who's been coughing more than usual. You watch as he examines her presses. Her chest checks her breath and then straightens. She's shrinking, he says quietly to your mother. More than last year. You aren't surprised. Your grandmother was already short in your childhood. Now she's bent her back shaped like a question mark, her hands knotted by time. You wonder how tall she was in her youth. 5'1", maybe 5'2" at most. That would have made her statuesque among her peers. And now in her 80s, she barely clears 4.5 feet. Time, as always, chisels away. That night you bring her a bowl of broth and help her sit up in bed. Her voice is soft, barely more than a whisper, but her eyes are sharp. You've got your aunt's legs, she says, glancing at you. Short and quick. She used to climb trees like a boy. You grin, picturing it. There's no greater compliment in her mind than a comparison to someone capable. Once she's settled, you slip outside for a few moments. The stars blink overhead, cold and bright. You stand barefoot on the cold stone threshold and stretch your arms up toward the sky. You feel your spine elongate slightly. Your ribs expand your body, reaching just a little toward the heavens. It's the only time you ever try to feel taller. And it isn't because you want to change your source. It's because you want to feel space around you, room to breathe. You lower your arms and return inside. By the fire, your father is mending a tool handle. He's large by village standards, just under 6 feet with wide shoulders and hands like hammers. When you were a child, he seemed like a giant. Now, as you move past him to hang your cloak, he still looms, but you notice how age has taken something from him too. His back is stiffer, his steps slower. Even the tall aren't immune. He glances at you and nods toward the kitchen. You've grown stronger this year, he says. I see it in how you lift the water bucket and the way you walk after a full day still upright. You nod, not quite knowing what to say. In a world without mirrors, without scales, without tailors or sizes or numbers, compliments are rare. They come not in remarks about beauty, but about usefulness. You are growing not upward, but inward, growing capable. And as the fire burns low, you sit quietly and fold your legs beneath you. Your frame is small, yes, but it fits every part of this house, this world, this life. You've been shaped by it, and in turn you shape it back with every task you complete, every footstep you place, every weight you carry. You don't need to measure your height to know your place. You already live inside it completely. The wind howls outside as you press your shoulder into the cottage door, holding it steady, while your brother slides the wooden bolt into place. A storm has swept in faster than anyone expected, sharp gusts rattling the shutters, bringing with it the smell of wet earth and coming rain. Inside, the air is heavy with the scent of wood smoke, wool, and stew bubbling slowly over the fire. You shake the rain from your shawl and hang it on the peg by the hearth. Your body, damp and cold, responds quickly, muscles tightening, skin prickling, but you know warmth will return soon. You move toward the fire, stretch your hands out, and slowly feel sensation creep back into your fingertips. Storm days like these are when you most feel the dimensions of your world. The outside is shut off, and everything collapses inward. The cottage becomes the universe, and inside it, every movement is bound by space, small walls, low ceilings, narrow paths between the furniture. But none of it feels cramped. Not for you. You're built for it. Your size matches your surroundings in a way that feels almost preordained. You kneel beside your sister to help her untangle a basket of wool. The strands have matted together from moisture. She's smaller than you, just barely, with the same sharp eyes and slim wrists. You both lean over the wool heads close and begin pulling the fibers apart with gentle fingers. It's quiet, repetitive work, the kind that lets your thoughts drift. You think of your cousin, the tall one who lives with a merchant family in a neighboring town. Last time she visited, she ducked every time she entered a room and complained softly about the beds being too short. Her dresses required more fabric, her shoes wore out faster. She had presence, yes, but also discomfort. She didn't fit, not the way you do. You wonder if she ever wishes she were smaller, not to disappear, but simply to belong. The stew is ready by dusk. You help serve it into rough wooden bowls and pass them around. You sit cross-legged on the floor, the way you always do, your back resting against the wall, your knees folded neatly beneath your skirt. The warmth of the broth spreads through your belly and into your chest. You breathe in deeply, letting the heat settle you. Later, your mother asks for your help mending one of your brother's tunics. You bring the garment to your lap and begin stitching by firelight, eyes squinting as the shadows dance. Your hands know the rhythm, in, out, in, out. Your stitches are tight, precise, barely visible. Your fingers are nimble, quick, but the skin around your knuckles is rough, weathered from washing, scrubbing, and spinning. You pause a moment and flex your hand. It's not a child's hand anymore, nor is it the delicate hand of the noblewomen described in old songs. It's a worker's hand, strong, blunt, efficient, just like the rest of you. And though you rarely think about your body, rarely even see it fully, you know it intimately. You know how it moves in tight corners, how it bends low to reach fallen apples, how it braces itself against wind, how it anchors you in sleep on a narrow bed. You don't know your exact measurements. No one's ever held a string to your back or charted your growth. But you know the important parts, the lived parts. You can reach the rafters with a stool. You can hoist a child to your hip and balance them there while stirring soup. You can walk for hours without tiring lift buckets, without spilling scrub linens, without breaking pace. You are not big, but you are not fragile either. As the rain continues to fall and the wind whips at the shutters, the family begins to quiet. One by one, your siblings settle into their corners on straw beds by the fire beside the walls. You roll out your blanket and lie beside your youngest sister. She fits perfectly into the curve of your body, as though the two of you were carved from the same mold. The room grows darker. The rushlight flickers low, and in the silence you begin to hear the subtle creaks of the house settling for the night. The beams above groan softly. The fire pops. Someone exhales in their sleep. You stare at the ceiling for a while, tracing the familiar lines in the wood. You think of your size not in pride or shame, but in observation. You are small by today's measures. But not here. Not now. Here in this world of low beams and narrow beds, your body is exactly as it should be. It is the average. It is the expected. It is the necessary. And as you close your eyes, drawing the rough wool blanket up to your chin, you feel it again, that quiet alignment between your form and your world. You don't need more. You don't want more. You only want to keep moving, keep contributing, keep surviving. You don't dream of being taller. You dream of a good harvest, a warm winter, a safe childbirth. And in those dreams, your body carries you always forward, always enough. You wake to the hush that follows a night of heavy rain. The world outside is soaked and soft, every footstep squelching into the muddy ground. But inside the cottage, everything is still dry and warm, the hearth coals glowing faintly as your father stirs the fire back to life. You sit up slowly, your joints stiff from the damp, your body curling into movement, with the practiced ease of someone who has done this every day of her life. There's no time for stretching, no time for slow mornings. The rain has delayed some of the tasks from yesterday, and now it's time to catch up. You tie your hair into a knot layer on your woolen tunic and step out into the soft light of dawn. The air smells like wet leaves and smoke. Your shoes squish into the path, and your hem is soaked within minutes, but none of this slows you down. Your first task is helping repair a small section of fence that collapsed under the weight of the wind and water. It's not delicate work. It's hammering posts back into the ground, dragging heavy branches and lashing them into place. Your hands are raw by the time you finish, your back streaked with mud. But you don't stop to wipe it off. There's no one to impress here, only things to be done. As you move through the work, you think of the women who used to do this before you, your mother, your grandmother, your great-grandmother. All roughly your size. All shaped not just by heredity, but by function. You realize that your body is a result of thousands of years of quiet adaptation. Women in your line didn't grow tall because tallness wasn't needed. What was needed was compact strength, flexibility, and resilience. You are small, yes, but every inch of you is purposeful. After the fence is secured, you and your brother walk into the woods again, this time to collect firewood loosened by the storm. The trees drip steadily, leaves hanging heavy bark, dark with moisture. He laughs as he lifts a large log over his shoulder and challenges you to keep up. You grin, pick up your bundle, not as large as his, but dense, and follow close behind. Even though he's taller, your stride never falters. Your body isn't built for speed, but for balance. You know how to place your feet so you don't slip, how to shift your center of gravity when crossing uneven ground. He stumbles once on a mossy rock, and you don't. He notices. You always walk like the ground's yours, he mutters, half in admiration. You shrug. It is. Back home, you lay out the wood to dry near the hearth and sit for a moment to catch your breath. Your mother passes you a cup of warm broth. As you sip, you glance at the line of hooks above the fire where cloaks and aprons hang. You remember how as a child you couldn't reach them. Then one day, around your 12th or 13th year, you could. You'd thought that meant you were nearly grown. And you were. In this world, girls become women by 14, 15, sometimes younger. By that time, you've reached your full height. The same height you are now. There are no late growth spurts, no sudden stretches into tallness. Nutrition doesn't allow it. Life doesn't wait for it. Your bones stop growing because your body must now work, not build. You think again about numbers, how odd it is that in another world people are obsessed with them. Heights, weights, inches, pounds. Here you're rarely measured by anything except your ability. Can you carry a bucket of water? Can you lift a child? Can you walk to the next village without tiring? Those are your real metrics. Not 5 feet, not 100 pounds. Just function. Later that afternoon, your aunt visits with her daughters. One is your age, the other just turned 12. You sit around the fire, sewing patches into old clothes, and chat quietly. The youngest watches you carefully. She's shy, nervous, still growing into her body. "Will I be tall?" she asks suddenly. Your aunt smiles. "Not likely," she says gently, brushing a hand over her daughter's shoulder. "We're not tall people." The girl frowns. "But what if I want to be?" You glance at her small hands, her delicate wrists, the way she already mirrors your posture. She's already on the same path. Her size has been determined not just by her parents, but by her environment, her diet, her pace of life. "You'll be what you're meant to be," you say quietly. And whatever that is, it'll be enough. That evening, you walk her home, just the two of you. The rain has passed, leaving behind puddles that reflect the dusky sky. She skips ahead, then slows to match your pace. You notice how your steps match now. When she was smaller, she had to rush to keep up. Now she moves beside you. She's not taller yet. She may never be. But she's growing, not upward perhaps, but stronger, steadier. By the time you return to your own cottage, the night has drawn its curtain across the land. You undress by firelight, hang your clothes to dry, and slip beneath your blanket. Your muscles ache, your knuckles sting, your back tugs with fatigue. But it's all familiar. It's your body's language. You're not a large woman. You never will be. But you fill the space you're given, and that's enough. The first frost arrives in the dead of night, painting the thatched roof white and turning every puddle to glass. You notice it immediately the next morning as your bare feet touch the icy floor and your breath fogs the air. The chill slices through your woolen shift like a blade. You wrap your shawl tightly around your shoulders and move toward the fire where embers still glow, waiting to be coaxed back into life. The frost has a way of making you feel smaller, not because it threatens you, but because it reminds you how vulnerable the human body is to the seasons. Even the strongest woman in the village can be brought low by cold that seeps into the bones. And when you're 5 feet tall, with little body fat, and no insulation beyond wool and layers of linen, every gust of wind feels deeper. Still, your body is used to it. You've weathered winter after winter. Your limbs have adapted not with bulk, but with conservation. You know how to move without wasting energy, how to wrap yourself in warmth, how to share heat when you sleep, two to a bed. You don't need to be large to survive. You need to be smart, layered, and in constant motion. Today is laundry day again, despite the cold. The stream hasn't frozen yet, but the water is icy and the air sharper than yesterday. You walk with your sister and a neighbor, baskets of soiled linens balanced on your hips. The walk is slow, every step over the frosted earth requires care. Your leather shoes, softened by use, grip the soil just enough to keep you upright. You pull your shawl tighter as you walk the bundle beneath your arm, pressing into your ribs. Everything you carry with your whole body. At the stream, your breath fogs with every exhale. You roll up your sleeves and plunge your hands into the water. The cold is immediate, shocking. It makes your arms ache before the soap even touches the fabric. But you don't stop. You kneel, bend forward, and scrub. The movement is rhythmic, almost meditative. You've done it so often that your body operates on muscle memory. Despite the pain, you press on your body, small but persistent against the weight of winter. The women beside you are quiet, lost in their own routines. Occasionally, someone mutters about the weather or curses a stubborn stain. But no one complains outright. Complaining doesn't change the cold. It only makes the work longer. When your fingers finally go numb, you pull them out, and sit back, shaking out your hands. Their red and raw knuckles cracked. You glance down at your knees, damp, streaked with mud, cold, soaking through the layers. But again, this is all expected. You wrap your hands in a dry cloth, squeeze them for warmth, and stand up slowly. Back at home, your mother has prepared a stew of dried peas and turnip. It's simple, filling, and warm. You eat it quickly, not bothering with manners. Hunger is a more urgent master than decorum. After the bowl is scraped clean, you sit by the fire and press your feet toward the heat, wiggling your toes inside thick socks. Your father enters soon after brushing frost from his shoulders. He glances at you and frowns. "You look thinner," he says. You shrug. "I'm the same." But he's not wrong. Winters often make you leaner. There's less food, fewer chores that build muscle, and more time spent in a cold stillness. Everyone shrinks slightly this time of year, not just in appetite, but in presence. Your body conserves energy, moving more slowly, curling tighter in sleep. Still, you're strong, even now. You head to the shed to fetch firewood. The stack is low, wood burns faster in this weather, but you find enough to fill the basket. Lifting it to your chest, you feel the strain pull at your arms. But your legs hold firm, your back straightens, and you carry it inside without spilling a stick. In the evening, your brother carves new soles for your shoes. You sit beside him, watching the way his knife shapes the wood. "You wear them down faster than I can patch them," he teases. You smile. That's what happens when your legs never stop moving. He glances at you, then, not unkindly. "You're small, but I swear you're stronger than I am." You shrug again, but the words land somewhere deep. You are small. Always have been. Always will be. But in this world, size doesn't win the day. Endurance does. Quiet strength does. Before bed, you help your grandmother to her straw mat. She leans heavily on your shoulder, her body even smaller now than it was last winter. She's a whisper of a woman barely over 4 feet, now hunched and fragile, but her eyes are still sharp. "Keep your back straight," she tells you as always. You smile. "I do. You'll need it when you're old," she adds. "Even if your size disappears, your spine will carry your pride." You think about that as you settle into your own blanket, curled tight for warmth, your spine straight despite the cold. You think of all the women before you, short, sturdy, wrinkled, determined, and realize your size doesn't fade with age. It crystallizes into memory, into legacy, and that legacy is enough to warm you even on the coldest night. The cold lingers well into the next morning, turning the edges of the water barrel outside into thin, cracked sheets of ice. You break it with the back of a wooden spoon, watching the shards sink before scooping water into your jug. Your breath fogs the air as you carry it inside, careful not to spill a drop. Every movement feels heavier in the cold, and yet your body doesn't resist. It flows with the rhythm of necessity, like water down a familiar path. You're preparing to help with spinning today, a task as old as your village itself. You've been trained in it since you could hold the spindle steady, and now it's second nature. You sit by the window where what little light there is can help guide your fingers, and you begin to draw wool into thread inch by inch. Your arms stay close to your sides. Your back stays straight if you can help it. Your legs fold neatly beneath you. You don't take up much space. In fact, you've never thought of yourself as taking up space at all. You fit into the chair, into the room, into the expectations placed quietly upon your shoulders. No one in this house has ever needed to say, "Move over." You're already where you're supposed to be. The spindle spins, whirs, catches the light as it turns. Your fingers move expertly, tugging and twisting with practiced ease. This isn't labor that shapes muscle in obvious ways, it shapes precision. Endurance. It's a slow, careful kind of strength that leaves no bruises, only the faint ache in the back of your shoulders and the tired tightness in your palms. But over time, it builds you into something resilient. In the afternoon, the village tailor passes by with a bundle of clothes that need patching. You've always been one of the girls he calls upon. Not because your stitches are perfect, but because your hands are small enough to work neatly in tight seams. He smiles as he sets the bundle down. "You've got clever fingers," he says. "Good for delicate work." You nod, setting aside your spindle. It's a quiet compliment, but a meaningful one. In a world like this, where most recognition comes from survival, any acknowledgement of skill feels like sunlight in winter. You begin sorting the garments, worn tunics, fraying cuffs, a skirt with a torn hem. As you work, you think about how little cloth you yourself need. Your dresses are narrow. You rarely require extra length. And while the tailor may have to use more fabric for growing boys, your form remains consistent, predictable, efficient. He once told you that he liked sewing for women like you. Less cloth, fewer cuts, nothing wasted. You weren't sure whether to be proud or embarrassed by that. But now, as you stitch a new cuff into place with a steady hand, you realize it's simply truth. Your body doesn't demand extravagance. It asks only for what it needs. In the evening, as the wind picks up again, you help bring in the animals. You guide the goats back to their pen, your hands firm on their backs. One of the younger ones butts your leg playfully. You stumble, then right yourself with a soft laugh. Your cousin, watching from the fence, grins. You're tiny, but they still listen to you. You smirk. They know I bite back. It's said in jest, but you know it's true. People may underestimate your size, especially newcomers, but never twice. You've helped pull calves from mothers, chased off stray dogs, and once held a door against a gale wind for half an hour straight. Your frame may be narrow, but your spirit is not. That night, as dinner steams on the hearth, your family gathers to tell stories. Your uncle speaks of a woman from a distant village, said to be nearly 6 feet tall, who could carry 3 sacks of grain without flinching. You listen amused as your siblings imagine what it would be like to see such a giant. But when the fire dies down and the bowls are empty, your grandmother clears her throat. She didn't live past 30, she says quietly. Size doesn't stop hunger. Or cold. The room falls silent. No one challenges her. She's lived long enough to speak truth without preamble. And she's right. In this world, the earth doesn't reward bulk. It rewards adaptability, endurance, familiarity with hardship. You lay down that night on your shared straw mat, tucking your blanket close around your shoulders. Your sister, half asleep beside you, curls into your side like a kitten. She barely stirs as you shift to make more room for her. You're used to it. You've always made room for others. Your body may be small, but it has room for work, for warmth, for worry, and for wonder. You don't fill halls with presence. You fill corners with strength, and that strength, invisible as it may be, holds more weight than any number. The sky is pale gray when you rise the next morning, the sun struggling to break through the thick winter clouds. You wrap yourself in an extra shawl before stepping outside to gather herbs still drying beneath the eaves. Your breath curls around your face and the cold bites at your cheeks. But you move quickly, your body knowing the way. Inside, your mother is already up grinding dried roots with the mortar and pestle. You kneel beside her wordless, and begin sorting through bundles of rosemary and thyme. These herbs are medicine flavor and trade all in one, and your nimble fingers, small and sure, untangle each stem with the ease of someone born to it. As you work, your mother glances at you and smiles faintly. "You have my wrists," she says, "thin but strong. You look down at them." She's right. Your bones are small, the veins beneath your skin visible in the morning light. But your hands don't tremble. Your wrists don't buckle. You can carry a pail in each hand, stir a pot for hours, pull a reluctant goat from the briar. You've inherited more than just her build. You've inherited her fortitude. Later you walk into the village to deliver herbs to the healer. The path winds between narrow fields and frozen puddles, your boots crunching through ice-crusted leaves. As you pass familiar homes, you wave to neighbors, many of them women your size, their bodies nearly mirrors of your own. You pause near the blacksmith's cottage. His wife Marjorie is hanging laundry on the line, her arms bare despite the chill. She's short like you, but solid with a stance like a tree stump. You've always admired her, how she holds herself with quiet command, how she speaks, rarely, but listens sharply. She looks over and calls, "Come help me, would you?" You jog over, and together, you lift the heavy linens, aprons, breeches, woolen undershirts, and drape them over the sagging line. You have to stand on your toes to reach. She doesn't. Her arms are longer. She notices your stretch and smirks. It's not height that gets things done, it's leverage. You grin back, and knowing when to ask for help. When you finish, she hands you a small loaf of rye bread still warm from the fire. "Payment," she says, though you never asked for it. You continue on your way thinking about the variety of women in your village. Some are stockier, some more willowy, but almost all are under the same invisible ceiling. Rarely taller than 5'2", rarely much heavier than you, and yet none of you are the same. That's the trick modern people might forget. Average doesn't mean identical. It means shaped by shared conditions, poor nutrition, hard labor, limited rest. It means everyone growing like plants from the same soil. Some a little taller, some a little shorter, but all of you tethered to the same sun, the same rains, the same hardships. At the healer's cottage, she greets you with a tired smile. Her hair is streaked with gray, her hands lined with age and herbs. She accepts the bundle and offers you a seat beside the fire. You talk about your grandmother, how her joints ache more these days, how she's shrinking before your eyes. "She's still taller than I'll be," the healer says with a chuckle. "I'll be no taller than a mushroom before the end." But there's no sorrow in her tone. It's a fact of life here. You shrink as you age, not just in inches, but in speed and hunger and demand, and the world adjusts for you. You walk back slowly, the bread tucked into your cloak. The wind picks up again, and you lower your head to keep the chill from biting your ears. Your shoulders hunch instinctively, not from defeat, but from knowledge. You know how to conserve warmth, how to move with the cold, not against it. Back at home, you share the bread with your siblings, tearing it into even pieces. Your brother asks, "Do you think you'll ever get taller?" You shake your head. "Not now. I'm done growing." He frowns. "I thought girls kept growing until they were 20. You laugh softly. "Not girls who walk miles and eat roots." And it's true. In this world, you're lucky to grow as much as you have. You're lucky to have all your teeth, to still have your strength, to still rise each morning without help. That night, as the wind howls again through the gaps in the shutters, you sleep curled like a comma under your blanket. You barely take up any space on the mat. and yet you're aware of the space you hold in this life. You aren't average because you're small. You're average because you fit perfectly into the fabric of the world around you. And as the fire burns low and your breathing slows, that thought settles over you like another layer of warmth. The snow comes overnight, silently blanketing the village in white. When you wake, the world feels muffled still. You pull on your thickest dress, tug your shawl tight around your shoulders, and step outside. Your boots sink into the snow with a soft crunch, the familiar path to the well, now hidden beneath a smooth, cold crust. You adjust your balance instinctively, keeping your steps short and careful. The snow reaches mid-shin, and for someone of your height, that's enough to slow you down. But you press on because no one else will fetch the water today. Everyone else has their own tasks, and yours is clear. So you lower the bucket into the dark mouth of the well, hear the splash, feel the weight in your shoulders as you hoist it back up. Your arms strain, your back curves, your breath hitches, but you do not stop. Back in the cottage, the snow melts from your shawl onto the stone floor as you set the bucket down. Your sister takes it with a grateful nod. You say nothing. Neither of you needs to explain that this is just how it is. You don't do these things because someone makes you. You do them because they must be done. Later that day, you help your mother prepare dried apples and winter stores for trading. Each item is wrapped carefully in cloth, weighed not by scale, but by the sense in your hand. You know exactly what feels right. You don't need numbers to tell you when something's enough. Your entire life is lived by feel, by instinct. While sorting cloth, you come across a dress from your childhood. You hold it up, noting how little it differs from what you wear now. Slightly narrower in the chest, shorter in the sleeve, but not by much. You remember growing out of it not all at once, but inch by inch, quietly, steadily, until it no longer fit. You had no grand transformation. You just grew into yourself until you stopped. That moment when growth ended didn't come with fanfare. No one told you. You simply realized one day that your clothes stopped shrinking and your arms stopped stretching toward the sky. You had reached your final height, just shy of 5 feet, maybe 5'1" if you stretched. And that was it. That was enough. You remember hearing about women in other parts of the world, taller, fuller, rounder. Women with different food, different customs, different ideas about beauty. Some were said to be so tall they needed special carriages or ducked through doorways. You couldn't imagine it. Not just because of the size, but because of the luxury it implied. A world where space and abundance allowed a body to grow beyond the limits you knew. But here, height has always meant something else. Sometimes it brings attention unwanted or curious. Sometimes it brings suspicion. A girl too tall is seen as odd. A woman towering over her husband is whispered about behind her back. Height is power in some places, but in yours, it's something to hide or apologize for. Not that you'd know. You've always blended in. Your body has never drawn stares or questions. You've always been the right size to be overlooked, and strangely, that's given you freedom. You spend the afternoon making candles from tallow and wick. The smell is thick and clings to your hair, but you don't mind. The repetitive motions, dipping, drying, trimming, soothe your mind. Your hands, though small, are quick. Your wrists are steady. It's work meant for someone like you. When night falls, your father returns from the fields with a new calfskin, and your brother grumbles about having to help stretch it. You volunteer. You're good at pulling evenly, anchoring with your feet, adjusting the tension just right. I swear, your brother says watching you. You're stronger than your shadow suggests. You smile at that. Before bed, you visit your grandmother again. Her voice is faint now, her fingers curled into her palms, her frame nearly swallowed by the straw mattress. You sit beside her and hold her hand barely larger than your own. "You remind me of my sister," she whispers. "She was small too, but she carried the world." You nod, squeezing her hand gently. You wonder if long after you're gone, someone will say the same about you. Later you lie in the dark, tucked into your blanket, your sister's breath slow and steady beside you. The snow outside reflects the moonlight, casting a soft glow through the tiny window. You stare at the beams above your head and feel your body settle into the straw mat beneath you. You are not tall. You are not delicate. You are not extraordinary in size, but you are whole, entire. Exactly the shape needed for this life. Not a fragment of strength is missing from you. You were not built to tower. You were built to last. Morning light filters softly through the frost-dusted window, casting long, pale streaks across the worn wooden floorboards. You wake slowly, the cold no longer biting. It's just there, part of everything, like the walls, the air, your breath. You stretch beneath the blanket, toes brushing your sister's shins, and rise into another day, already waiting for you. Today is baking day, and your hands already ache in anticipation. You roll up your sleeves, revealing forearms corded with subtle muscle, not from lifting weights or training, but from dough and buckets, from pails of water, from laundry twisted and wrung over and over. Strength without display. You knead for nearly an hour, the dough resistant at first, then slowly yielding. Your palms press down with even rhythm, your shoulders rocking with each motion. The table is just the right height for you. Not because it was custom built, but because you were built to meet it halfway. Every task in this home, every tool and surface aligns with your scale. Even the world outside, paths trodden down by centuries of feet, just like yours, feels like it has known your body longer than you have. As the bread rises, you help sweep out the hearth, dusting away ash with short, practiced strokes. Then you gather kindling again, carry baskets of apples to the cellar, and check on the woven traps by the hedgerow. It's all quiet work, repetitive grounding. You never question whether you can do it. You do it because you've always done it. Your body knows the way. In the early afternoon, you pass the carpenter's cottage and pause to help him carry a bundle of reeds. He laughs as you hoist the smaller bundle to your shoulder and match his pace without stumbling. "Small frame, big engine," he says, half joking. But you feel the truth in it. Inside your small frame is an engine that's never stopped running. One that doesn't roar or blaze, it hums steady, efficient. You don't burn out because you don't waste. Every movement you make serves a purpose. Later, your mother calls you to help prepare for visitors, a neighboring family arriving for supper. You lay out the table with care, placing wooden bowls and rough clay cups along its surface. The room feels smaller with more people, but again, you fit where others must duck or shift. Your presence slides easily into tight spaces. You are part of the architecture of the room. The visiting daughter is slightly taller than you, maybe 5'3", and she speaks with a hint of pride in her posture. Her clothes hang differently, her stride longer. You study her without judgment. She has her own rhythm, her own kind of presence. But when you pass behind her in the kitchen, and she bumps into the shelf with her elbow, you smile to yourself. Not all sizes are made for this space. Not all bodies bend to it as easily as yours. After supper, when the guests have gone and the fire burns low again, you find yourself standing in the doorway, looking out over the quiet village. Roofs shimmer with frost, smoke curls from chimneys, and the moon casts long shadows across the packed earth path. You stand there for a long time, arms folded, breathing in the cold. You think about what your body has been through. You think about how it stopped growing years ago, not because it gave up, but because it found exactly what it needed to be. You think about how no one has ever measured you formally, but everyone who sees you knows what you're built for. They see it in the baskets, you lift the bread, you bake the children. You soothe the strength in your back and the skill in your fingers. You've never towered over a room, but you've never disappeared in one either. You've simply existed steadily, fully, always enough. You step back inside and pull the door shut against the chill. Your body casts a long shadow across the stone floor, and for a moment in the flickering light of the hearth, you feel tall, not in inches, but in presence. Because being average here doesn't mean small. It means durable. It means dependable. It means worn in like a well-used tool fitting perfectly in the hands of time. You lie down in your corner of the cottage, once more, blanket tucked beneath your chin, the familiar weight of your world pressing gently around you. Your body folds into itself naturally, and you close your eyes with a soft breath. You don't measure yourself in inches. You measure yourself in sunrises survived in bread, baked in children, carried in steps, walked in seasons endured. And by that count, you're more than average. You are timeless. The fire has burned low now, and the air is still. Your breath is soft and even, your limbs curled into the quiet familiarity of your bed. You've wandered through fields and kitchens, through muddy paths and forest trails, but now you're finally still. And in that stillness, you carry the weight of countless lives lived in quiet strength. Maybe your feet ache just a little from imagining all those hours spent standing on stone floors, trudging through snow, bending to stir soup or gather herbs. Maybe your fingers twitch as if they've felt the rhythm of a spindle turning, or the pull of stubborn roots from the soil. Maybe your shoulders feel a little heavier, with the invisible memory of buckets and baskets and the burdens no one saw you carry. But in this quiet moment, none of that matters. You've seen what it means to be average in a time and place where size wasn't measured by rulers but by resilience, where women didn't chase beauty in mirrors but built it with their hands, where your height was the least important thing about you and your strength, the most unspoken, sacred truth. So rest now. You've followed a life measured not by inches but by effort, not by weight but by worth. And you've done more than enough. Let your body sink deeper into the mattress. Let your eyes drift shut, and let sleep fold over you like a woolen shawl pulled gently over your shoulders. Because the fire will be lit again in the morning, and the bread will need kneading, and the snow will fall just the same. But for now, you can rest. Your story is safe here.